All right. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Welcome back in this video. No, it's not welcome back. Welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to do something cool. But first of all, I want to thank all of you because we reached 4,000 subscribers, and I really love that. So thank you, everyone, for subscribing, liking, and sharing my videos. It's awesome. It's quite a journey already. So thank you very much. But in this video, we're going to talk about Laravel, Livewire, and Reverb. And we're going to build a memory game, a multiplayer mode memory game. So I like to travel a lot, and I'm abroad a lot for conferences and meetups and all regular business stuff. And I love to play games with my children as well. And we love to play memory games. It's simple and stupid, but I know it's what we do. So I created this game where we can do a multiplayer memory game while I'm abroad. So let's dive into it, and I hope you learned something for this. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Thank you. Let's dive in. All right, so let's get started with installing a fresh Laravel application. So Laravel new will allow us to create a new Laravel application. So I'm going to call this one memory game. And I'm going to go for the Livewire starter kit. And yes, I want authentication. And no, I do not want Vault. And I want Pest as a testing framework. So this is going to install a few things for us. All the dependencies and stuff like that. It will create a minimal database. It will install all the dependencies, like I said, and this will take a few seconds. So let's finish here. All right, I also want to run npm install, and there we go. All right, now let's cd into the project, cd memory game, and to get started, I want to install Reverb. So because we're going to use WebSockets in this project, so PHP Artisan, let's install broadcasting, and this will ask us a question. Hey, you want to install broadcasting, but what do you want to use as a driver? And I want to go for Laravel Reverb in this case. So yes, I want to install Laravel Reverb, and this will install all the needed npm modules as well. Like here's like installing Laravel Reverb, but we need all the node dependencies for that as well. So let's hit enter here, and this will install all the needed dependencies on the JavaScript side for us as well. So yes, Artisan Serve, I have this in a project in Herd, so I can just do memorygame.test and we're good to go. So let's open up Google, memorygame.test, and let me just make it a little bit smaller for you guys like this. There we go. So this is our Laravel application, and we can use all the stuff that's in here for us, right? So let's start up with creating a user, Bert at vulpo.be, passwords test1234, test1234, create account, and I'm logged into our fresh installation of Laravel with the Livewire starter kit, and Reverb is already present for us. Okay, so now that we have our application, we can start creating our models. So first of all, this is our code base. This is, we didn't touch it at all. So we're going to create some models in this models folder right here. I'm going to use that. I'm going to use Artisan for that. So PHP Artisan make model, and let's call it game, because I'm going to create a game, and I also want a migration. And in my game, I will have game players, right? So I want to create game player as well, together with a migration. And I also want to create a game card, because we're going to use multiple cards in our game. All right, so that's done. Let's head over to the code base, and we have those models in here, and they're all empty for now. Let's start off with creating those migrations, right? So in this first migration of games, I want to add the name of the game. So table, this is a string, and string name. All right, cool. We need also like the status of that game, the maximum players, the grid size, and stuff like that. So let's quickly create those things. So the status will be a default of new, because every game will be new in the beginning. And I want to have an integer for the max players, like that, and default will be 4. Because by default, I want no more than 4 players in the games that I'm having in my database. So table integer for the grid size. Well, you know, grid size will be 4 by 4 or 6 by 6. And let's start off with a default of, let's say 4. Like that, 4. Okay, cool. I also want to keep track of which player is currently playing in a game whenever a game is active. So table, and I want to just do that with an integer as well. And we're going to store in the current player ID. All right, cool. And by default, this won't have any value, so it's nullable by default. I also want a JSON object in here, so a JSON. This is going to be the card positions array. So basically, we keep track of which card is where in the game. So card positions, like that, and we don't want anything in here. We don't want nullable or default. This will be filled out for us whenever we create a game. Table, integer, and I also want to keep track of the turn count, right? So we want to say by the end of the game, hey, this game took like 16 rounds, and this is a turn count. We'll be defaulting that to 0 as well. So that's it for the game. Now let's open this up again, and I also want to insert all the stuff that we need for the game players. First of all, we need to keep track of in which game they are playing. So the integer of game ID, right? And we also want to associate a game player with a user. So we're going to also add here an integer for not the player ID, but the user, the user ID, like that. So we also want to keep track of the score that that player is scoring in this game. So another integer, a lot of integers in here for the score, like that. And by default, of course, 0, because everyone starts at 0. We also want to keep track of which player is playing after which player. So first of all, like when we join a game, we get this play order. So we're going to call this the turn order. So let's just do this here, turn order. And by default, we don't have anything in here because we're going to assign this whenever a player joins a game. I also want to keep track of if this player is active or not. So a boolean of is active. All right, cool. And let's default that to true, because by default, whenever they join, they are active. Okay, cool. One other thing here, I want to make sure that the game and user combination is unique. So whenever a player joins, we will be checking the uniqueness of the player and the game. So basically the game ID and the user ID, which is the player. Like we don't have the ability to have 2 same users in the same game. So table unique, game ID, user ID. So that combination must be unique. Okay, so let's head over to the last one here, which is the game card. And in the game card, we also, just like the player, we want to use an integer to keep track of this card belongs to this game, so game ID. We also want to keep track of the position that this card has in this game. Like for instance, if this card is a letter B or the word, like my name, Bert, or an emoji of football, we want to make sure that the position in here is clear, right? So integer, and we're going to call this position like this. And this could be like a number between 0 and 15 if we have a 4x4 grid, but we could have 20 if we have 6x6 grid, right? So, all right, so we want to have also the value of this card to know which card this really is. So table, and we're going to put this in a string. In our case, we're going to use emojis, but we could use names or image URLs or whatever, right? So the value, and we don't want to have anything default here. We will assign this whenever we generate a game with the cards as well. All right, so there are a few booleans we need to track. So first of all, a boolean default false here for the is flipped. By default, all cards aren't flipped at all. Same thing, we also need a boolean, which is also default false for is matched. We want to keep track of all the cards that are matched already. And if they are matched, we want to keep track of which user did the matching. And we will assign a point to that user whenever he or she flips a card which is a matching card. So matched by user ID. All right, cool. Default nullable as well. Timestamps, yes. And also I want to make sure that every game and every card is unique. So table unique, like this, and in unique, all right, but instead of game and user ID, this time is the position. All right, so it won't be possible for position 3 or position 5 in a certain game to be in there multiple times. So now that we have our migrations, let's close up these ones and head over to Warp and, well, run migrate, right? So this creates our tables. So these are created. Let's actually start off with creating our first component in Livewire. So PHP Artisan make Livewire game lobby, because we want to start off with creating our game lobby. This will create a class for us and a view file. So let's head over here. There we go. Let's close this up. So this creates a Livewire game lobby file for us. We have in our resources views Livewire game lobby blade.php. But first of all, let's say game lobby here, like this. And let's start off with creating a route for this. So in our routes web.php, in here, right after we sign in, so in our authenticated routes, we want route, let's call this as a get route, of course, games, and this games will be a game lobby Livewire component. And let's actually get rid of this because I want to import that later on. So class, and let's just import this like this. There we go. Import class, yes. Okay, so, and we will associate this with the name of, let's say we will be having games, but yeah, well, games.lobby, right? Let's save that and let's add this to our navigation. So navigation is in components, layouts, app.blade. No, it's in app sidebar. All right, cool. Sidebar, and in here, let's actually copy this flux nav list item. Let's call this game, well, it's for the icon, so let's go for layout grid, and this will be a nice little icon of 4 squares, which is kind of related to our game, right? So the route is games.lobby, which is the name that we gave it just a few seconds ago. And in the route is routes with games.asterisk, because we want everything in there with a games prefix for our routes. And we want this to be memory game. Right, let's save that. And actually, let's npm run dev here. Cool. Let's refresh here. And this actually is our Livewire component game lobby, which is presented in our front end. All right, cool. All right, so let's dive into our component code, right? So let's open up here our Livewire game lobby component. I want to start off with creating two properties. So public game, game name, because this is the game name that we will use whenever we create a game, and public games, which is an array of all the games that are in our lobby right now. All right, so public function mount like this. Whenever we mount our whenever we mount our games, we want to whenever we mount our component, we want to mount the games that are actively available to start playing. But we don't want to do this only on mount, we want to do this on a refresh later on as well. So I'm going to split this into two components. So public function, let's call this load games, and this will be a function that will be initiated in our mount as well. So this will be this load games, and this will be called upon mount, but we can call this upon whenever we want. So we want to associate this games with all the games. No, we don't want that at this point. We want to eager load the players. So this is players dot user, because that's the relation through the players we will be associating the user. So we will be able to call the name of that user. I want a where statement for all the games that are having a current status of new, because all the games that are already ongoing or completed, we don't want that. And I want to order that by the latest, and I want to throw a get behind that, because otherwise this won't work, right? All right, so this is how we're going to load the games. Let's actually put together our front end for that. So we're going to have like this blade file here, and I already pre-created this because we created this app beforehand, right? All right, so this is the complete class for our the complete blade file for our game lobby, which consists of a header, memory game lobby, with an error message flash here. We have two parts in here, which the first part is a create game form, which just takes in a game name and a button to create that game, which actually triggers the creation of the game. Second part is a list of all the available games. We are showing the game name, the amount of players are actually in the game already, and then we're going to loop over all the players that are in the game, to show who is playing. And then we can have this button over here to join in on that game, which is of course disabled when the max players is reached or when you're already in there, right? All right, so let's actually create the component functions that we need to make all this magic happen, right? So first of all, we're going to create this function to create the game. Okay, so public function create game. All right, let's dump or die in here. This creates the game like that. And we're going to do the same thing for join game. Join game. This joins the game. Let's actually run this. All right, cool. So now I have this form and this list, which isn't showing any game. So if I write the name test here, create game, this gives me this creates the game. Okay, cool. That's cool. All right, so now let's actually create that game. All right, so let's head over to the code base again, and in our game lobby component here, I want to start off with validation. So this validate like that will take in an array and of the game name, which is required, but I want to add this with a minimum of 3 characters and a maximum of 50 characters to, just to make sure that someone is really filling in the data that we need. Okay, so let's start off with that, but before we continue, I want to create the relations between the game card, and the game player. So first of all, in our game component, I want to have the protected guarded to be an empty array, because I want to be able to mass assign all of this. And I also want to protected costs to take in an array, and in this array I want to be have the card positions like this to be an array as well. All right, cool. So let's add a public function for players, which is a has many, like that, and this is a return of this. Whoops, not like that. Of this has many, and of course has many game player clauses. Okay, cool. Same thing for the cards, right? So public function, let's say cards, and this is also has many, of course, and a return of has many game card. Okay. So we had this current player ID. I want to also have this related to the user that is actually playing. So public function current player, and this is a belongs to, right? So belongs to, and let's just return belongs to game player. No, we don't want that. We want the user model to be related, and we're going to relate that to the current player ID. Let's close this so you can read that better. So current player is a belongs to of a user clause, which is using the current player ID column. All right, cool. Okay, so that's it for the game. Let's open up the game card and have the relations in here as well. First of all, we're going to do the same thing. I want to protected guarded of an empty array, and I want to the costs as well for an is flipped to be a boolean, and the is matched to be a boolean as well, like that. Now, of course, this belongs to a game, right? So belongs to of a return of the game clause. And we also have this matched by user ID, if you remember. So we also want to matched by user, and this is also a belongs to, but we're going to return this to a user belongs to user current player. No, we have the matched. Whoops, that's wrong. The matched by user ID. All right, cool. So that's it for the game card. And now for the last one, I want the game player to also have this protected guarded empty array. And I don't have any costs in here, but I have this public function game, which is a belongs to. As you can guess it, return belongs to the game. Let's close this. Return belongs to the game. And well, this game player is also related to the user belongs to, and a return belongs to of the user clause as well. All right. That's it for our relations. Now let's get back to creating that game. So in a game lobby, we will be creating this game with, we can now mass assign this. So let's actually do that, right? Let's start off with creating a game. And this is a new game. So game, create create like that. And we're going to take in, whoops, an array like that. Let's close it up with a semicolon. And I want this game to have a name, right? So game name is the thing that we will be filling out in our form. And well, the status will be new. I also will be having this max players, and I actually don't need to do this, but let's just do this for the clarity of things. Max players, let's set that to 4. I want the grid size, and we could add into our form an extra property to take in, like, hey, you want a 6x6 or a 4x4 or a 10x10 grid, but in this case we don't want any of that. So positions is an empty array for now, because we're going to fill it out later on. Okay, and I want the turn count, and of course to be 0 in the beginning. Now, a game without any players won't be a fun game, right? So let's create a game player. All right, so create, okay. Also an array like that. And this will be a game ID of this game ID that we just created. I also want the user to be the user ID that is authenticated at this moment, and we're going to set the score to 0 for now, and the turn, and not the turn count, but the turn order, because I'm the first person to join, will be set to 1. And of course it is active, let's set that to true. Okay, and a semicolon at the end. Okay, so now let's actually update that game, and we can associate the current player ID with actually the currently authenticated user. All right, now let's reset that form with an empty string, and this is where it gets interesting. I want to dispatch here. I want to dispatch that this game is created and it's available for other players. So let's start making our first reverb event, and it's actually the only event that we're going to use in this application. PHP artisan make event to create that event, and we're going to call it game updated, because the game will be updated, and then we're going to listen for that. All right, cool. So this will create this events folder with game updated in there. What I want to do, I want to add implements should broadcast, because we want to have this broadcasted, but we don't want to have queues, so we're going to use broadcast now to skip all that queue stuff. In the construct, well, we're going to use we're going to use this game updated for a lot of stuff. So in here, I want to have public integer for the game ID, because I want to have this for multiple games. I want a public string for the type, because will be dispatching multiple types of updates, and I want the public array, a public array for the data, and this will be an empty array. So first of all, we're going to set the data in any case of the player ID, which is initiating this event, which will be, of course, our auth user ID. Next up, we have this broadcast on function, and I'm going to use a normal channel. Instead of channel name, we're going to call this games, because we want to have this in our games, but I also want this stuff to be broadcast on the channel of games, game dot the ID of that game. And we're not going to do this like this. I'm going to actually do this like this. So there we go, like that. So game dot game ID, which is one string. And we need to add something as well here. Instead of ending the file here, I'm going to add another function, public function broadcast with, which is an array return type, and this array will be game ID. Whoops, game underscore ID. Game underscore ID is this game ID, and I will also have this type to be this type, and data will be this data, but I want to merge this. So array merge this data, and I want to merge this with an array of player ID, data player ID, and if that isn't present, we're going to use the auth ID. So yeah, this should be a failsafe if in case something goes wrong with the construct. All right, cool. So that's our game update, and I need a semicolon in here. Okay, cool. So this event will be dispatched whenever something happens, right? So in any case, in this dispatch event here, I want to add game updated, which is an app events folder, dispatch of the game, game ID, and I want to player joined the game. Okay, cool. So that's it. That's what's been dispatched to our game updated event, the game ID, and the player joined as a type, and we don't have any data because the data will be set in our construct to the auth ID of the player that is in the game. All right, so basically what we need now is a way for other and also ourselves to listen to this event. So in our game lobby, I want to add, before the join game method here, a public function of game updated. And well, whatever we're going to do here is we're going to load the games again, because we want to make sure that we have any games. So this will populate this available games array over here. All right, so now that we have this event, I want to actually listen for that. So a hashtag, open the array, and I want to use the on attribute here, which is a Livewire on attribute. And in here, I want to use echo. So echo to listen to the games channel for any game updated event. And this will trigger our games to load again. So let's test this out. Let's actually PHP artisan reverb start debug, and let's refresh here. And normally, if I inspect this, I should get, let's see, the network tab, refresh. Yes, I have this WebSocket at ready. Awesome. Let's close this and make this is a test. Let's save that, and this is automatically there. All right, cool. So this, I didn't refresh anything, and this gets popped in here. So this means that our game is actually refreshed. Sorry, so our game lobby is actually refreshed with an available games update. So let's actually inspect that again, and let's open up the network tab here, and let's, how can I do this for you guys? Like this, okay. And normally, like this, test, it's actually refreshed. You've seen the socket refresh the values here, right? So let's actually close this again, and let's do this. Okay, cool. So now I have two games, and we can join this game. This will be dumping or dying. This joins the game. So let's actually build on top of that to join the game. So let's dive into the code again, and this join game function here is what we're going to expand. First of all, we're going to add a parameter here, which is the game ID, like this, which will be given into our game lobby whenever we hit the button to join. which is here, wire click, join game with the game ID. Okay, so let's get rid of this dumper die, and let's actually add the game into our component here. So game, find this game with this ID. So game is game ID. All right, so let's add some failsafe stuff, right? So let's say, hey, we don't know this game. Or this game has a status which is not equal to, and I prefer it this way, not equal to new. Well, we have this session flash, right? So game not, let's say, not available. Cool. And we're going to return that. Another situation that we can have is that the game players is more than the maximum allowed players. And then we can say, hey, session flash, the game is full. So game is full, like that. And let's also return that. Another situation could be we don't need to join because we're already part of this game. Which will be an if statement as well, and saying, hey, this game players where the user ID is, and I'm going to get rid of this, is the auth ID, and this actually exists. So whenever we have in this players an user ID with the current auth ID, and that record exists, we can actually just redirect to the current game. So redirect, route, and this route will be a game show, and we will be creating that route in a second of this game. All right, cool. Okay, so whenever we want to join this game, we need to have this turn order, right? We want the order of the game that we're joining. So if I'm joining second, my turn order will be 2. If I join third, my turn order will be 3. So the game, and let's actually check out the players, and and I want the max of turn order, and I want to add 1 on top of that. Okay, now we have that. Let's actually game player create, because we want to add a game player for our user that wants to join the game, right? So let's associate that with the game. Let's associate that with the auth user, and well, the score will be 0, the turn order will be the turn order, and the isActive will be true. Cool. And now we want to do the exact same thing that we did before. We want to dispatch that. So game update dispatch for this game player joined. And let's actually return a redirect to this route of game show and the game. And let's actually create that route right now. So let's open our web.php like that. And in here, I want route get, and this will be games/the game, like that. And this will be the, we're going to create that, but we will call it the game room clause. And let's call that game.show. Let's head over to warp. We're going to close our server right now, and PHP artisan make Livewire game room. Okay, and I did something wrong. Okay, my route already exists, so let's kill that and create that game room. This created our class, and let's put that back. All right, so now I can import that. Import class. All right, cool. So now I have this game room route, which will be our game room component that we can join. So let's try it out, refresh here. And if I click here, of course, my, what did I do? Let me check once. So in the game lobby, I have this game players. Of course, this is a function call. So let's do that again. And now I'm in the game 2, and this is the game room, right? So if I quickly go about and put that in here, the game room like that, and that is the room to prove it to you that this is the actual room that we just joined. All right, let's go back to the lobby and let's actually do this with a second user. Let's quickly add an incognito window here, and let's put that side by side like that, and I want it like this. All right, cool. So basically, let's put this a little bit closer to each other. This is the memory game.test. There we go. What did I do? Let me just put it a little bit bigger. Memory, of course, memory game.test. There we go. Let's register a new user, and like this. Okay. So my kid's name is Florian, right? So Florian, Florian at vulpo.be, and let's go for test 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. Test 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Create account, and he is signed in as well. Let's also go to this memory game lobby, and well, it's stacked underneath each other, but it's clear to see. So if Florian would join this test, this is a test game. Well, my reverb server isn't running, so let's actually PHP artisan reverb start debug like this. Okay, let's refresh here, make sure that we're on the same connections. And if I join the server, he is redirected to the room, and I can see that Florian is in this room as well. So I can now join the room as well. And now we have 2 players in 1 room. Now let's take care of this room component real quick here. So let's dive into the code, and in here I have this room. Let's close all the other stuff here, and let's open up our game room component and our component blade file of game room.blade.php. So let's quickly I already did this before, so I will just copy in the blade file in here. So basically, this is the blade file. This is a very large file, but let's walk through this. So I have this X data, which is Alpine.js to manipulate with JavaScript, right? So I have this init function, which says, hey, console log Alpine memory game component initialized. And this is a next tick, which will be taking care of the next functions. So setup Livewire listeners and setup echo connection. So in this setup Livewire listeners, we're actually, well, we're waiting for 2 seconds to flip the second card. So this auto triggers when a match checking after 2 seconds when 2 cards are flipped. Well, we needed to implement this because otherwise, when you flip 2 cards, well, it just went away very, very fast. So we're waiting 2 seconds to run the matching checking. And after that, we're going to flip the cards back after 2 seconds of after a no match. So this is an internal call, and we will be handling that as well. And we're also setting up echo here. This is just to check if the echo is successfully connected and whether we're connected to a game. And if we receive updates, we will also log it into the console as well. All right, so all the other stuff is quite kind of basic. We have this name of the game, we have this turn count, we have this waiting players if the status is new. We have this playing status, which is the playing of the game. And we have the finished status. We have this flash message, and we have this component part where that we use whenever the status is new to say, hey, we're waiting for players to join. We need at least 2 players. And if we have 2 players, we're showing a button to start the game. If the status of that game isn't new anymore, we can actually play the game. So we're looping over all the cards here, and we have this flip card function, which, well, is green if it's matched. We have this blue if the value is shown, and we have this gray whenever the value isn't one of those others. We have this is processing value whenever a game is being processed, like another player is playing or thinking or whatever. And then we have this, if the value may be shown, we show the value of the card. Otherwise, we just set a question mark. And that's basically it. And then we have some other stuff here to have the players, looping over all the players with their initials and keeping track of their score and the matches and all this stuff, and some game information. Hey, this is a 4x4 grid, total cards and the amount of players. And then we have this back to lobby button as well. Let's actually refresh here so we can see that. Of course, I don't have this constant game because we didn't initialize that yet. Let's actually do that. So let's head over to the game room component and let's actually fill out everything that we need. Okay, so let's start off with adding an array to this render function here, which will be indicating the players, and the players will be this game. And let's actually take the players, and we want to have that with their data of the user that's related to that player. And we also want to order that by order by the turn, right? So we want to show that in the order of the turn that they will be playing in. And let's throw a get after that. Okay, so that is this for the render function. And now let's actually create this public game. And we're going to assign this to a game object. And let's actually import that as well. Okay, so game, and I also want public cards because I will be having multiple cards in this game. Okay, like that. I want public game message. As you saw, we want to be able to send messages to our players. We have this public processing, so is processing will be default false, and we have this flipped cards array, so public flipped cards array. All right, like that. All right, next up we need a mount function, so public function mount of the game. All right, and whoops. Okay, so I want to set this game to game, and well, we're just like in our lobby, we're going to, instead of load games, we're going to load cards. And this will be, yeah, triggerable by multiple other functions as well. But let's comment this out for now. And let's refresh here. All right, so now we can see our UI that we have, right? So we have our 2 players with 0 matches, of course, but we didn't start yet. And I have this button to start the game because I created the game. I am able to start the game. If I would click here, I would get an error because that function isn't ready yet. I have this information. I can go back to lobby and I can rejoin the game as well. Okay, so let's start off with our load cards and then actually start a game. All right, so let's dive into the code again. Let's uncomment that again. And let's start off with this load cards function, right? So public function load cards, like that. Okay, so in this function we will assign this cards array. So cards, which is the cards in our game. So this game cards, and well, in the beginning we won't have any cards, right? So this doesn't really matter if this is empty. So order by and the position, because I want to loop over them in the current position that they are in. Okay, so let's get those cards and let's map over those in a function card, and let's return an array which holds the ID, which is the card ID, which has the card position, which has the value of the card value. We have the card value right there, and I need a semicolon at the end right here and also here. Okay, so we will also be looking into the flipped. So is flipped, is matched, and the show value will be well, a boolean based off if it's flipped or not a show value, or is it flipped or is it matched, right? So is flipped or is matched. Okay, and I want this to array like that. Okay, so this will load all the cards in the game, and well, I don't need that. Let's close this. This will load all the cards in the game. So in the beginning there won't be any cards because the game didn't start yet. So let's actually create another function, public function start game. Okay, so in this start game function we will of course start the game, but we want to check if the game hasn't started already, right? So this game status must not be equal to new. Then we will return like that. An early return if the status is not new, and that's it. So this game, and we want to, well, I want to have a function in my game model. We will create that in a second. So initialize like this, initialize game. This function isn't there yet, but we will create that in a second. And then after that, I want to load the cards, and I want to say this game message to say, hey, the game started like this, and I want to tell the user that this game current player name is about to play, right? So like this, turn. Okay, and a semicolon after that. And also in here I want to make use of the game updated event again, and I want to say the game ID and started like this. All right, so let's go about and create in our game model the initialize game function. Okay, so in here I want to have this public function of initialize game like this, and well, this is a void function, so void. Okay, so let's start off with total cards is actually this grid size multiplied by this grid size. That way we know that we have 4x4, 16 cards in the game. And we have pairs, right? So every game has pairs, and that pair amount is actually the total cards divided by 2. All right, so I'm going to use emojis, and let me just quickly copy this in because I don't want to type this out. This is a lot. So this is a set of 100 emojis that we want to use. So let's actually add that to our cards values. So card values, like this, is an array of the values of our cards that we want to use. So let's add the classical for each loop, which is an I equal to 0. And I don't want this. I want this to be the pairs, like this. So whenever we reach the pairs, we don't need to add any more emojis. So emoji single is actually the emoji, not like this, but there we go. And this is the value I, modulo the count of the emojis, like this. And I want the card values array to have one of those emoji, and I want this to be repeated. So now I have 2 card values of the same emoji, and after that I want to shuffle them. Shuffle the card values. Okay, so now we have the amount of cards that we need, the pairs, and I add 2 of each pair to our array and I shuffle them. So now I want to actually add that to our game. So for each, and we're going to loop over all the card values, all the card values, but I want to loop over them as a position with a value. There we go. And now I want to create them into the cards array, create like this. In the position, I want the card value to be the value, and of course is flipped is false, and is matched is false as well. All right, cool. After this, I want to just update the game, this update, and I want to set the status to be playing. Like that. All right, so let's actually go about and click that button. All right, cool. So now I have this game cards array, and I need to refresh here, but this is because my Reverb server didn't restart, and I'm not aware of that game update. Okay, so let's do that again to show you that this is working. So let's actually restart the server. Let's refresh, and let's join in Florian into this game, and I'm joining in as well, and I'm not getting anything. Of course, this is because load cards isn't called upon yet. So let's actually do that again. Let's kill the server again. Okay, so now let's actually listen for those game update events, right? So let's start with a function. Let's close this up as well. There we go. And I want a public function that takes in care of these game updated events, right? So, and I want the data as well. Okay, so this game will be refreshed. So refresh of this game. All right, so let's actually load cards again. All right, so whenever the cards are loaded, we can do this switch case, and I'm going to copy this because this is a mouthful. There we go. So we have this data type a case where the card is flipped, we get the card flipped by the current player's name. If the cards are both flipped, we get the current player's name, flip both cards, checking for a match. If the match is found, we actually see like, hey, this player, we get his name, and we say player name found a match. If there is no match, well, we will be imploding on those card values because we want to say, hey, this and this card were found, but were flipped, but they are not a match. So no match, player name tried, and the cards values of those cards. And then when the turn changes, we say current player's name's turn. When the game is finished, game finished, the winner of the game is the winner username. Okay, so that's it for that. All right, so now we have this. I want to listen on a game update on our channel. Okay, so let's actually do this with, like we did before, a hashtag, an on attribute like that, and I want to use echo to listen for the game, and this is the game.id, like that. So the channel of game and the ID of the ID of that game, and I want to listen for the game updated event, and this will trigger our game update function for us. All right, so whenever nothing happens in this type, the cards will be loaded. Awesome. Okay, so we need to have functionality to flip cards, right? So let's actually go ahead and build that. So public function flip card, and flip card will be taking in a card ID like that. So in here, I want to check off a few checkboxes first, like this is processing, or what else could be wrong here? This game current player ID is not equal to the auth ID. And we still need to check if this game status is not equal to playing. So whenever the game is new or finished or whatever, or whenever it's not my turn, or whenever the game is processing, so thinking about stuff, we will not be able to do anything. So let's actually return in that case. Okay. Okay, so now that's out of the way, we can actually focus on the card that needs to be flipped. So this game cards, and we want to find the card that is given into our function, and we want to check against some stuff. In here, we're going to do some fail safes as well. If the card doesn't exist, or the card is already flipped. Card is flipped. Or the card is already matched, or the count of cards that are already flipped is greater or equal to 2. Then we can't flip any more cards, right? In that case, we want to return as well. Then we have this card update that we need to call. Because we want to flip it, we need to set the status of is flipped to true. And we also want to add this to our flipped cards array. I don't want to do this. Flipped cards array. We want to add our cards to that array. And of course, we want to load our cards again because we want to update our own version of our game where we already have our card flipped. Okay, Okay, so now comes the tricky part. So I want to actually dispatch whenever the first card is flipped, a normal event is saying, hey, the card is flipped, this is the ID, and this is the user that flipped it. If the second card is flipped, I want to dispatch both cards flipped event with the first and the second card in it. So let's start off with checking against the count of the flipped cards being equal to 1. So whenever there is only one card flipped, I want the game update event, updated event to be dispatched, and I want to say this game, because it's about this game that we're talking, like this game, and I want card flipped as the event type, and the data that I want to pass on is the card ID, and this is the card ID, and I also want a player, I want this into a string, player ID to be equal to the auth ID. There we go. So that's basically saying, hey, we have a game updated event, dispatch it. We're talking about this game. This is a card flipped. This is the card ID that is flipped. And this is the player who did that action. And because we store this in our database, like card is flipped is true, we can now actually, with the thing we created before, the game update event, read that on the other end in a case of card flipped, saying, hey, card flipped by user, and by calling this load cards, the other player will also see that card being flipped. Okay, so that's it for the first card that's being flipped. Okay, so else if the count of the cards is equal to 2. Let's add that as well. And this is basically this is processing, because we need to start processing a few things. We need to start thinking about, hey, is there a match and stuff like that. And I want the game updated event as well. Like, whoops, updated event. Come on. Yes, event to be dispatched for this game ID. And the event is both cards flipped, and well, I need an array, of course, and let's get rid of this for now. There we go. And this is player ID is the auth ID. The card IDs, because we have multiple, is the array of flipped cards, and the first card ID is flipped cards. Flipped cards. There we go, like this. And the second card is the second card. All right. So now I want to actually dispatch internally to our front end, saying, hey, the cards flipped. And this will internally, in our game room, whoops, I need a semicolon at the end. In our game room here, cards flipped, saying, hey, on cards flipped, I want to set a timeout after 2 seconds to check match on the function, check match. So basically, that will allow us to say, hey, after we dispatch the second card, we need to wait 2 seconds to check if there is a match. All right, cool. But if there isn't a match, well, there is something called flip cards back. So whenever there is no match, we will be flipping back those cards. So let's start creating that one first. So let's close this up here. There we go. And let's start off with public function public function flip cards back. There we go, like this. And this is if we have a count of this flipped cards being equal to 2, like that. We want the first card, card 1, this game cards, and this is a function. So there we go. Find, and I want to find this flipped card with ID 1. Yeah, the first one. So is 0 and with number 1 and 2, and there we go, card number 2. This is taking out card 1 and card 2 out of the flipped cards array. So the first card has a key of 0, the second one has a key of 1, and this is grabbing them from the database that we have. Now we want to update the flipped cards for both of them to false. So let's do that like this. And then we want to actually say, hey, this turn is over. We didn't find any of that. So we want to call a function called next player. So let's call this game next player. There we go. And we will create this in a second. And this game message like this, saying this game current player, there we go, name is turn. And we also want to, of course, dispatch that like this, also again of this game ID. You know how it works already, right? Turn changed. So we're dispatching the turn changed. So let's actually create this next player function. And this is in the game model. And in this game model, I want to add this function in here, public function next player. And this is not a belongs to, but a void, because this will return nothing. And we want the current player order is this players, like this, where user ID is this current player ID, and that the first one of those. And if that's available for us, we want to turn order, or we want 0. All right, let's rephrase this, right? So the current player order is the players where my user ID is the current user ID. That one is turn order, and if that is null, I want 0. So basically, if the current player is has a turn order of 1, this will result in 1. If the current player is a turn order of 2, the current order will be 2. So we can set the next player to this players, and we can actually use a where function for this, where the turn order, and this must be inside of quotes. There we go. Turn order is greater than the current player order, and we want to order by, of course, turn order again, and we want the first one of that. So the next player is the first one with the bigger turn order. That's it. And basically, if we don't find one, we want to loop back to the first one. So if there is no next player, then then we need the next player to be players order by turn order like this, and we want the first one. So whenever there isn't a player with a higher turn order than the current player, then we need to loop back to the first one in the loop, and that will be the next player. Okay, so now we still need to update the game. So this update, and we will update a few things. So we will update the current player ID for the next player and user ID. Next player, user ID. All right, so the next turn order as well is actually this. Sorry, not turn order, turn count, because we're turning into the next round. So turn count will be this turn count +1, and this needs to have a $sign. All right, cool. Semicolon at the end. So the update of the current player will be the user ID of the next player, and the turn count just increments with 1. All right, so that's it for the next player. And while we're here, we're going to create another function. Public function is game complete. There we go. This will be a Boolean, and we will return this cards where is matched false count is equal to 0. All right, so this will return true whenever there isn't any card left which isn't matched yet. So let's get back to the game room. All right, so we still need to check for matches, right? So whenever the turn is done, we need to check for matches, and after that, if the match isn't found, we can actually flip the cards back and do whatever we need, right? So let's add another function here, public function called check match, like this. Okay. All right, so let's start off with this count must be of 2 flipped cards. If it isn't equal to 2, then we can return because we don't want anything to do in here. So what is wrong here? Of course, I need 1 equal to less. Okay, so basically, card number 1 is game cards. Find the with key 0, and there we go. All right, so we have those 2 cards, right, that we need to check upon. I want to know if the card 1 has the card value that is equal and completely equal to the card 2, its card value. If that's the case, then the card 1 must be updated with the match is true. But we want to update that not only the is matched, but we also want to keep track of who matched it, right? So matched by user ID, and this will be the auth ID. All right, cool. We want to do the same thing for the card number 2 in this case. So card number 2, exactly the same thing. Now, whenever a player has found this match, we need to check out the player. This game players where user ID is auth user first. So this is the current player that is playing. So, and we need to increment his score. So player, and we're going to use the increment function for this. Increment not the card value. We're going to use the score to be incremented. All right. This game message, we want to notify that somebody made a match. So auth user name found a match. There we go. Okay, cool. So we want to still dispatch that as well to have other players be aware of this, right? So game updated event again, dispatch, and in here we're going to again call this game ID because we want to know that it's about this game, and match found. And we want to call the match found function, and in this array I want to declare, hey, it's the player ID, the auth user ID that made the match. Okay, and we want the card IDs to be this flipped cards so we can show which cards are flipped. And what did I do wrong here? Of course, a comma in between here. Okay, cool. All right, so next up we want to check if the game is complete. So the function that we just created in the game object is game complete, whoops, with a capital G. Game complete will return a boolean, and if this boolean is true, I want this game to be updated, so update, and I want to update the status of that game because the game is now not playing anymore, but it will be finished. Okay, and we need to determine a winner. So winner equal to this game players, yes, players, order by the score descending and the first one. So the highest score will win. And I want the game message, hey, the winner is this username, and we also want to game event to dispatch saying, hey, this game ID, game finished, and we don't need any data with that. But if this is false, we need to do some other stuff. We need to make sure that the game message says, hey, there is no match for player, he tried this and this card. So this game message, not game finished, but in this case, no match. Let's say this game current player name tried, so like this, tried, and we want to loop over the cards, right? So tried, card 1, card value, and card 2, card value. All right, so this seems okay for me. All right. Next up, we want to broadcast that as well. So game updated, whoops, game updated event dispatch, this game ID, and well, the message will be, the type will be no match. Okay, and in here there is this array of the player ID is auth ID, the card ID is card IDs is the flipped cards, and the cards values equal to an array, whoops, an array of card 1, card value, and card 2, card value. There we go. Card values, and like this, and I need an arrow like this. Okay, semicolon at the end. I'm very sorry. And for internal stuff, we need to flip the cards back as well. So this dispatch, and we're going to flip cards back, and we're going to do this on self like this. So this will dispatch a flip cards back with dashes in between on the component, which will be setting a timeout for 2 seconds, and will call flip cards back camel cased in our component itself. So basically, flip cards back. Cool. So now that we have this function in place, we still need to, in our check match here, at the end, we need to flip our cards back and disable the is processing and load our cards again. So if card 1 has a value equal to the value of card number 2, in that case, we still want to add, we actually want to clear out the flipped cards. Flipped cards is an empty array again. There we go, an empty array. Whoops, empty array, yes. And this is processing. I want to set back to false, and I want this load cards to be triggered again. So whenever the turn is done and we don't need to flip the cards back, we want this is processing. We don't want them to flip back, and we just want to have the card array of flipped cards to be empty. Is processing will be set to false, and we will load the cards again. And let's quickly check that in the flip cards back function. After the turn changed, we need to do the same thing. So we need to set this flipped cards to empty array, and this is processing to false, and we need to load the cards. There we go. All right, cool. So that's a boatload of code, and well, let's try it out right now. So this is quite exciting. So let's dive in and try out the game. Let's actually create a new game. This is a test. All right, create game. We both had this game. Let's have Florian to join, and now I can join myself. Let's start the game. All right, so normally this should work right now. All right, so now I have this dog, and it's instantly flipped on the other side as well. If I click here, it's a bear. So it's checking for matches, and after 2 seconds, it's Florian's turn. And now I can't click anymore right here. So I have this panda, I have this mice thing, and well, I have this, okay, so I have a dog and a dog over here. So normally this dog and this dog should be a match. So it's checking for a match, and a match was found. And because, there is a match, the player who was playing can actually play another turn. But let's scroll down. So we can see this match is also updated as well. So let's click another one. This mice, I don't think we already had this one. Okay, this one we had, right? So this one should be here and here. So now I have found a match, and I also get this match as well in my scoring. So, and we can go about and play this game for until it's finished. So let's do that real quickly. A bear, and I think this one was here. No, it wasn't. I'm not that quite good at this game, but nope, not, no. So this one and this one, all right. So my son is better at this than me, but yeah, you get the picture, right? Now we can play together while I'm abroad and he is at home. So he is definitely beating me right now. Let's see where we go with this. All right, so this panda should be here, and let's check for matches. And now, all right, great, game finished. Winner is Florian, and he won with 7-1, and that's about it. And now we can return to the lobby and create a new game. This is awesome, right? We can play this game together while I'm abroad and he is at home, just with a simple web application with Reverb and Livewire, and we can play together. And I think this is pretty cool how we can do this, and it's quite easy as well. So I hope you learned how to do this stuff today, and I will hope to see you in one of the next videos. And please like and subscribe, this really helps me, and share it with your friends, and I will see you later. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.